Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing today? So occasionally there is a Facebook post that is in my feed that just goes bananas. And today was one of those days. There was an article published by the Motley Fool, fool.com, talking about the 12 tax changes that Joe Biden wants to make. So we're going to go through all 12 of them. This particular article got a lot of reaction because two of our experts that we have on the channel, Anna, REI Mom, Kelly, usually on Wednesdays, and then Jonathan Twomley, usually on Thursdays. Both of them were very interactive in the comments. They were not necessarily agreeing on every point, so it was, I don't know that I've seen those two interact that much on one article before, so it was an interesting read. So what I thought I would do, go through each of the 12, do my best to talk about them, how I think they might change my business, maybe talk about real estate in general. But with the election less than 100 days away, I actually think it's less than 80 days away. If you believe in the polls, Joe Biden has more than a fighting chance. So I think it warrants at least asking. The other thing that I think is fair is, regardless of what happens, taxes should go up. We are long past cutting our way to a balanced budget. So I think while we should cut the pork and the fat, all those things that are easy to say but hard to do, I think we do need to look at tax increases. And frankly, I'll just say right now, a couple of these I actually agree with, as funny as that might be. But yeah, I agree. Let me think. I think there's 3 or 4 of these 12 that I would just flat out agree with, and probably 2 or 3 of them are like, oh, okay, I agree with that. And then a couple of these I just don't like, but that's neither here nor there. So number 1, looks like Joe Biden, if you've been watching, is going to increase the corporate tax rate. If you recall, under Obama's last year, I believe the corporate tax rate was right around 35%. One of the things that President Trump did was lower it to 21. Biden wants to take it back kind of the middle. He wants to take it back to 28%. The other thing to mention that I failed to in this introduction was Biden's 12 tax changes looks to raise somewhere between $3.3 and $3.7 trillion over the next 10 years. This particular increase in the corporate tax rate is about a third or $1 trillion of that. So just right off the bat, I think this is one most of us can get behind, right? It was 35, went to 21. Let's take it back to 28. Feels like the right thing to do. We've all got to pay a little bit more, but in fairness, corporate taxes go up in general. We prices could go up, right? So we, the consumers, could pay more. Certainly, companies could take smaller margins, but let's realize that we may end up paying for some of that with higher prices. Number 2, this one's interesting. This one I like. I don't know if you've ever experienced AMT as an individual tax filer. AMT is something that I learned to hate. I think AMT over the last decade, I think I was hit with it 6 times, and it sucked. It was horrible as an individual tax filer. But corporations don't have AMT. Alternative minimum tax is what that stands for. And this is basically something that they're calling the Amazon tax. If you don't know, in 2018, Amazon had $11.2 billion in profit, but had paid 0 in federal income tax because of carry forward and accelerated depreciation and things of that nature. If there was a corporate AMT-like tax, Amazon wouldn't get away with that. And I think that's a good idea, honestly. I think having corporate AMT like taxes is a great concept. Implementing it, controlling it so it's reasonable, that's a different thing. But just the idea that a corporation could profit 11.2 billion and pay zero in federal taxes, I'm not sure I get behind that. I understand the math. I'm an accountant. I get it. It's legal, all of that. But I could get behind an AMT, a corporate AMT. I could get behind that. I think that's beyond reasonable. I like that idea. Again, some of these I told you I was going to like. I think that's a calling it a genius move is probably a stretch, but it's a good idea. Number 3, doubling the tax for foreign subsidiaries. So if you are headquartered in the US and you have a subsidiary and it makes a profit and you bring it home, you're taxed at 10.5%. He wants to take that to 21%. I think there's some devil in the details here, because if you take it too high, they may keep the taxes or they keep the income elsewhere. We'd have to close some loopholes, I would imagine. I don't understand the ins and outs of this particular subsidy. So I think there's more hair on this one than the little article made it sound. But I understand, wanting to do that. I think there's a little bit of risk in that, because I don't think you're going to get the capital flow that you expect. But it's interesting. Number 4, he wants to charge the big banks. By big banks, think banks with $50 billion in assets or more. So that's probably less than 20 institutions. He wants to charge them a bank risk fee for dollars over 50 billion, so that if there is a liquidation in the FDIC and things of that nature, that extra expenses come out of this risk tax or risk fee. He is definitely calling it a fee. I think the financial institutions would call it a tax. I don't care. Fee, tax, they're both 3-letter words. I think this is on the largest of the large. Makes perfect sense. Again, though, we'll end up paying for it somewhere, consumers. But again, I think that's reasonable. I think this is kind of a leftover of the '08 crash. Biden, you got to remember, was vice president during that horrific event, so he probably has some experience and scars from that event. And obviously, we are in an environment where commercial banks or commercial real estate loans are in trouble. So I understand why he wants to do that, and I think it's reasonable, as long as it's not an egregious fee. He wants to raise the top end tax bracket from 37% to 39.6%. One thing I've got to say in all of Biden's tax raises is the rich, man, if you are W-2 rich, meaning if your income is from a salary, he wants to take some of your cash. He's going to take an extra 2.6% here, but believe me, there's more coming in his next 6 or so. So realize that if you are W-2 rich, you are not going to like a lot of the taxes coming. So we also got to realize that I believe everything he is talking about income is W-2 income. I don't believe it's capital gains or anything of that nature, but maybe it is. Next up, the payroll tax for if you're above 400K. He calls it the donut hole. So if you don't know what this is basically up through 137,700 everyone pays into Social Security. What happens after that is if you make more, you don't continue to pay it, kind of a cap. What he wants to do is create a donut hole. So so everybody pays into one, let's call it 135. From 135 to 400, you don't pay, and then everything above 400, you pay again. Hence, there's a little bit of room in there where you don't pay. And then again, if you are a high income W-2 earner, congratulations, he just hit you again with more taxes. Biden's coming for W-2 earners, let me tell you. Next, capital gains tax lifted on income if you make more than $1 million. I told you who's coming for you. He basically wants to take the capital gains limit, which right now caps out at 20%, to ordinary income for income earners over $1 million. So instead of 20%, it would go to 39.6. Ouch. Biden is coming for W-2 income earners. Number 8, one that probably impacts real estate and estate planning the most, and that is eliminate stepped up basis. Simply said, if I bought a house for 100, it's now worth $1 million, just adding a zero. I die. Today, I can now transition that to my heirs, and they get a stepped up basis where it's $1 million. And then they could sell it, no taxes, right? Because they're selling it for what it's worth. If you eliminate the stepped up basis, it goes from 100 to $1 million, my heir sells it, then they pay the capital gains or perhaps ordinary income on the gain from 100 to $1 million. So again, that's a lot of money that the federal government has been missing. So I understand the stepped up basis. This one hurts real estate, hurts estate planning, but it's also going to stop kind of the the kids of the grandkids of all those, the rich getting richer. So I understand it. I don't like it, but at least I understand it. We're going to eliminate the itemized deductions, or limit the itemized deductions to 28%. This one kind of feels petty. I'm guessing there's a bigger story there that I don't understand the details of it. But basically, if you're rich and you're doing charity and these other things, you only get a benefit of 28 cents on the dollar versus a higher amount if this wasn't limited to it. Next up, he wants to phase out small business income deductions above 400K. This one feels ill-timed. Small businesses are getting crushed today. This is one I think he or Congress or whoever, if this were to happen, would go maybe next time. We don't want to rain on small businesses today. They're suffering pretty bad. But again, he basically wanted to say, hey, if you're making more than 400K, sorry, you can't take additional deductions. Here's one that will positively impact real estate. Positive. He wants to institute a first-time buyer tax credit. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I think it was, I don't remember, maybe 2009? Obama did this. He instituted an $8,000 first-time buyer tax credit. It really goosed real estate for 2 quarters or so because it was a really short window when he did that. But Biden wants to go over the top. He wants to create a $15,000 tax credit for first-time buyers. Boy, if that gets approved, we are going to see home prices in the affordable sector go up. You are going to see builders build first-time homes a lot. We're going to see home ownership go up. Because think about it, $15,000 tax credit. I mean, just do the math. Assume it's a 200K house. Let's say you come in for 3.5%. That's $7,000. 7,500, I guess. Is that right? No, it's $7,000. Then you come in with some closing costs. You're out of pocket like $12,000, and the government wants to hand you $15,000 back. Ooh, real estate price is going to go up, friends. Going to go up fast. And then he also wants to create a renter tax credit. I don't really know what that is, but I read it as Section 8 getting bigger. He wants to make it sure that renters don't pay more than 30% of income. So as I've been saying for a long time, if Biden gets elected, expect housing authority, what I call Section 8 in California. That program is going to get bigger. And if you own Section 8 housing, pretty good time. And then number 12 is he wants to double the existing child and dependent care credit from $3,000 to $6,000. Again, it does help. So I think that is pretty wise. So at the end, Joe Biden has these 12 tax changes he wants to go through. I think one of them he would admit he'd pass on today, that small business one, which was number 10. But the other 11, certainly if the Democrats sweep Congress, he's got a good chance of getting these. I would love to see the $15,000 tax credit. That would make real estate more valuable. Increasing Section 8 would be great. Just increase security for renters. Stepped up basis, that hurts, but I understand it. If you're W-2 earner making decent money, you are a huge target. And I got to tell you, I like the AMT for companies. It really sucked when I filed my taxes that I had to pay AMT 6 out of 10 years. But you know what? I get it. I like that one, I got to tell you. So that's what I got. There was a lot of feedback on this. Both Anna and Jonathan were talking about it. So I wanted to create this for you. Let me know what you think of the 12. Have a wonderful day. Take care.